Hello and welcome to another video in the Red Sky Engineering course. I am going to spend a little bit of time talking over the index HTML file and specifically around the head section of an HTML file. I think most of you probably know what it is and understand a little bit of it, but there's some really key tags that are in there that are especially important for search engine optimization, SEO, and for other purposes. And I figured a video might be merit for just kind of going over some of this information. So here it is. I've got the Red Sky Engineering marketing site up here. And this is your kind of typical React application. If this was kind of an old school jQuery type application, you'd probably see quite a bit more data in your indexed HTML. You'd have probably all of your structure in here, and this would be a long file. I know our original sites that we used to do, this file would be thousands and thousands of lines large, and you'd have to kind of come in here and mess around and add quite a bit of stuff. But as it sits right now, you just have a simple body tag with a div where everything gets rendered by React as the root of everything, and you've got kind of your head section and any certain script tags you might bring in. So before we begin going through some of these line items, let's go to an article that I found that I thought was pretty interesting, and it's talking about meta tags in 2022 and why they are important to SEO. Meta tags have been a number of them that have been kind of recommended to use over the years, and the recommendations have kind of changed and shifted as search engines have changed the way that they crawl websites. For example, they used to have a meta tag called keywords where you'd want to put in all the keywords for your site and content, and the crawlers would use that to kind of index and rank your site. But now they've made it more so that it's the content that's in your site instead of having, a massive keyword tag that has thousands of things that weren't even relevant to the content that's in your site. They actually don't recommend using that. So this is a good article that just kind of goes through, do meta tags even matter in 2022? Yes, they do, but not all tags can help you. Um, you can check your meta tags by kind of viewing the source and doing all this kind of stuff. But these are, in his opinion, kind of the top 8 meta tags that you should focus on for your site when doing that. And although technically title is not necessarily a meta tag, it is its own tag inside your head. He kind of ranks these as most important to kind of least important, but still pretty important to have. So title tag, meta description, canonical tag, alternate tag. So this would be the alt text that you actually put onto an image. So he didn't really describe it here the best, in my opinion. Robots meta tag, social media meta tag, so like kind of open graph and Twitter cards, and then a responsive design. So really quickly, the title is the title that's shown at the top of your site. So obviously putting that in there, but they say the optimal length is keep it around 55 to 64 characters is what Google shows when it goes in there. So basically keep it underneath 60 um, characters in there, and obviously your title shows up right here. They talk about trying to add modifiers onto it, like hyphen online marketing and or hyphen portfolio, or anything you're trying to really stress and engage that user, that should be on there. Um, and some other kind of good things. And I'll take this article and I'll link it into the Red Sky University so that we can have it later. The next would be kind of the description. So this is actually a meta tag with name, description, and content that's in there. And so we can basically show up to 160 characters. However, Google does not use the meta description as kind of your ranking, so it won't really index it and add to your keywords that you have there. But it is important to have a good, clear description that's going to engage a user and try to get them to kind of click on it based on the description you have there. Because, here's the title of the site, and here would be the description, and you try to want to get them to click on it based on what you have here. So if you put a lot of gibberish in there, nobody, they're going to be less inclined to click on it. So Canonical tags are tags that you would add in if your site, you're trying to kind of group a number of different URLs as the same URL. So as your site gets crawled, Google might find it as, you know, a subdomain www, or HTTP or HTTPS, or maybe you're using PHP, so you have index. Canonical tags helps group all those together for Google, so it knows, hey, this is really the same site, so treat them all the same. Show the user just one on Google, and rank it higher. That could also, maybe you have session IDs that you don't want to be indexed or shown up on the search, and so that would kind of squish it down there. Alt tags, like I mentioned, these are really the alt text that you put in there for images. That's what he recommends. The robot meta tag would be the different instructions to the search engine crawlers, whether they should follow it, whether they should index the site, and obviously no follow, no index. You can do any permutation of that. Next one is Open Graph. So Open Graph is actually a nice way of formatting the data. If somebody was to take your URL and paste it onto Facebook or into Slack or whatever, it kind of allows you to control and put nice little images, maybe a different URL, different title and descriptions based on what's going to happen there. So for example, and Twitter cards would be kind of the same. So for example, let's go real quick and um, go to like shop.vendati.com, where we really wanted to make it so that the share links, that when you were emailing or copying a link to this, had really nice open graph information. To Facebook and paste in this open graph URL. And if I paste it in, you can kind of see down here, it pulled down the image that we wanted to display, maybe the title of it, the URL, and a brief description that when it gets shared out, it shows up nice. So that's kind of what the Open Graph gives us there. And to do that, you just add meta tags with all the different property types in there. Twitter cards, same kind of thing. You might have different information in there, and so if that's important to you. Next step that they recommend for optimizing SEO is making sure you use good semantic header tags all throughout. Responsive design tags. So this essentially instructs browsers that, hey, go ahead and scale this to the screen width, whatever the content is there, scale it out there in an initial scale of 1. So that's basically instructing the browsers that you have a responsive website, and to keep it scaled out. And then it gives kind of some stuff to ignore there. So jumping back to the index that we have for Red Sky Marketing site, we have a meta that's just kind of recommended for kind of the character set that's used throughout there. So it's in your standard UTF-8. The next is kind of the icon of the site, or the fav icon that they have up there. Historically, this would have been a .ico file, was what Internet Explorer had, but browsers nowadays can take, you know, JPEGs, PNGs, and stuff, and so they usually get displayed in about a 32 by 32 pixel. So typically that's kind of what was recommended there. And you can build out a number of different icon sets, whether you're trying to, if somebody was just try to save the icon to Apple's home screen, they would be able to, you know, save that page, and it would have a nice kind of icon there, and you can have, you know, a number of different ones in there. In the future, we're going to look into icon, fav icon generators that might come with Vite, and just kind of spit out and inject this information into it for you automatically. Here's that responsive meta tag that we mentioned, being able to scale. Theme color is kind of nice when you have a theme that you want to save, and what it'll do is on the browsers for iPhone and Android, it'll put that kind of color as the bar at the top and the bottom that you'd have there. Sometimes it works, sometimes you have to have added it to your home page for it to show up. It just depends on the device and the year, it seems like. Here's your robots tag that says, yes, go ahead and index this and follow all links you find. Next is the manifest. This is used for progressive web apps. So sometimes you can have websites where you say, hey, install this onto my phone or onto my desktop. This defines the file where you can have that. So if I open up this manifest.web manifest file, it kind of gives the name that we'd want on there. and the icon, the URL to start in, the theme, the background color, all that kind of stuff is defined in there. Here we come across our title tag, here we come across our description for our site, and then any script tags. And in this case, we are loading Google Analytics tracking script tags in there. So what I want to do here is I want to emphasize, setting the title tag is great for kind of the site and having kind of a default there, but for the best kind of website experience and search engine optimization, you'd ideally want to have a different title and description based on which page you're on. And in the old times when you'd have, an individual index file, or all the pages that the people were actually landing on were individual HTML files in your folder, adjusting the title and stuff was a lot easier there. For us, where we're using a single page application, React, we need a way to be able to dynamically change that. And so in our Red Sky framework, we added the capability of adjusting the title and the description and any of the open graph tags pretty easily. So we do that when we have our pages in our source pages, and we have our different pages there, and we have our home page, for example. We use this kind of page component, and by default, if there's nothing, no props here other than class name or whatnot, it's going to use whatever was originally in the index HTML. So if it's nothing, it'll default it to nothing. Um, if it's something that we said here, like Red Sky Engineering, we're going to have it there. And so just kind of emphasize this, let me pull up the Red Sky Engineering site, and you can see we have Red Sky Engineering, and our description is the description that we had in our index. But if I go to our work, you notice that the title of the site changes to Red Sky Portfolio, which is somewhere in here right there, title. And then the meta description, a list of websites, mobile apps, so the description actually did change too. And that'll be important for when it shows up in Google or Bing or other browsers, that description kind of shows up appropriately for this page. So how did we do that? Well, on the home page, you saw nothing there, but if I go to our, I think I call it work page, you can kind of see here that we now have a prop on the page component that we bring in from a Red Sky 996 framework of title, Red Sky Portfolio, and description that's there. So by just adding those two props to this page, it automatically took care of editing the head and injecting the correct information in there. One of the things that we can do also is you could say OG for Open Graph, and you can give it a title. So this would be, Red Sky Portfolio um, Open Graph, or whatever you'd want to say that might be different. By default, I'm finding that a lot of these sites, Facebook and Slack, will just, if you don't have an OG title specified, they'll just use the title of the page. If you don't have an OG description that's different, they'll just use the description that was on the page. So whether these are really needed, unsure, unless you purposely do want to have a different description there. For example, one idea we could do is, if this was a product page, we download the product information, and then the details in that might be different than the description of the page itself. But OG image is one important thing. So here you could have the product.jpg image that you would have in there, and that would then render properly. So long story short, the head of the site is really important for a lot of different things, for the the functionality of the view of your site on browsers, but really it's critical for search engine optimization and giving users more context into the individual pages. Now we have a nice way of doing it that you don't have to go in and muck with your own head of the HTML content, and the page just kind of takes care of it for you. I hope this was helpful and instructional. See you in the next video.